There's no such thing as a bad investment, just bad investors. Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're all well. Hope you're all in the Christmas spirit. As you can see, I well and truly am. I can tell you this is definitely the best tree I've ever had, but it was the most difficult to get the lights around right at the top. So this week's video is all about identifying that there is no such thing as a bad investment, just good or bad investors. And I can really relate to this because I have done literally dozens and dozens of deals. And at some point throughout those deals, other people, other investors have taken over. And it isn't the deal that's been bad, it's been the investor who takes over it. And I'm gonna talk to you about some of those deals and some of the details. And more importantly, how you can literally make the worst purchase, the worst project, the most difficult set of circumstances into a great investment if you are a good investor. And how it doesn't matter how good the deal is or how easy it's potentially going to be to make a really good profit. If you are a bad investor, it will turn into a bad deal. But look, as ever, before we get started, I just need you all to do me a huge favor, and that is to smash the like button and don't forget to hit subscribe. So look, no one ever goes into property investment, becoming an investor, becoming a businessman or business owner, looking to do the wrong thing or make bad decisions. So it stems very, very deep and very, very early on in the individual to what determines them to be a bad investor versus a good investor. And there are loads of different details and loads of different examples and loads of different discussions we can have to what makes a good and what makes a bad investor. But it stems very, very far deeper and far more basic than loads of different examples. And how I've pinpointed it back to its main source is literally how the individual views everything. Now, the only way to really describe this is to use, I think, Scott Fitzgerald's statement on the two sides of a coin. There isn't actually two sides of a coin, heads and tails. There's three. There's heads, tails, and the edge. And it's this view on everything and where you position yourself which will determine if you're going to be a good or bad investor. Now, I'm not saying if you pick tails, you're going to be good, and if you pick heads, you're going to be bad. It doesn't, unfortunately, work like that. It's not as easy as that. In property investment, no matter if you're the investor, the deal sourcer, the lender, the money maker, the profit maker, the management agent, it doesn't matter what it is. You can take a view on a property. And that view, if set in stone and not flexible enough to overcome any issues that might arise, any change of circumstances, any changes in the market, any changes to legislation, can turn a good deal into a bad deal. And if you are faced with a bad deal and you take a one-sided view on things, it's just a bad deal, it's never going to work, or the problems are too much for me to make a profit. You aren't ever going to be able to stand back and look at these good or bad deals as a good investor with a view that you can resolve pretty much anything and anything can be turned into a good deal. So good investors live on the edge. They're never heads and they're never tails. They take a pragmatic view on every situation. It doesn't matter how bad the deal is. If the numbers stack up and I can resolve all of the issues, I'm going to turn it into a good deal. And it doesn't matter how good the deal is, I'm going to be ready for when things do happen, when hurdles do arise or things will change which are unexpected. I can't control, but what I can do is be ready for the changes. And that doesn't happen overnight. You can't just decide to live on the edge of the coin and not be heads or tails and then poof, overnight you are a great investor. Being a great investor and turning bad deals into good deals stems from financial intelligence, understanding financials. Because property, if you're borrowing money or you're using cash in the bank or you're working with joint venture partners or you're a deal sourcer selling for a fee, financial intelligence on every scale is going to aid you in living on the edge and understanding what is good, what is bad, and being prepared to resolve things and be prepared for when things go wrong. It stems from that financial intelligence. Technical intelligence, building intelligence, electrical intelligence, plumbing intelligence, Those are all things that you can pay for advice on. And I personally do. I've never had any experience in the trade side of things. I've never been able to even hang a door. So I have the professionals that I can call upon, including architects and consultants and planning agents, who I can extract the information from. And it's actually really relevant right now because I have just been offered a fantastic deal, but it is rife with problems. And the reason why it's so fantastic in my eyes is because I've got it so cheap. And the reason why I've got it so cheap is because 95% of the previous purchasers and everyone else who has looked at it cannot see my view on it. They don't sit on the edge with my financial intelligence to understand what can be overcome with all of these problems and the massive benefit of the end value once it's all done. Now, this deal was brought to me by a really well-known, well-respected, very successful, and someone I personally admire, good friend of mine who is in the property game locally. Brought me this deal because he couldn't even quite see what I could see. He definitely saw part of it, which is what got us talking about the deal. There are loads of problems with this deal. I mean, literally, the property could be torn down if it isn't rectified very quickly. But it is a great deal, and it is what has inspired me to do this video, because I have known for a very long time that I see everything from all the different views. I am a master of reading between the lines, and I can't predict what's going to happen, but I can definitely plan for most eventualities. And that's what's kept me ahead of the game in terms of deals, in terms of refinancing, in terms of refurbishments, and in terms of business fallings outs that I've had. I can see and predict what could happen, and I plan for all of those eventualities, and that has paid dividends. I'm definitely not the hardest worker in the team, and I'm definitely not the most intelligent, and I definitely don't have the most experience, but I am pretty good at reading between the lines because I sit right on the edge of that coin, and I'm always looking at both sides of the fence to find the very best deal. And some of the haters, they absolutely do not get this because they think by sitting on the edge and sitting on the side and looking at everything from both points of view, you don't know what you're doing, or if something goes wrong, you have to quickly muddle through to find a different solution. They don't realize that successful property investment, buying massive portfolios and building great legacies is built on individuals who sit on the edge and can adapt and can move and shift with every single eventuality, which brings us right back to the very start of the video. There is no such thing as a bad investment, only bad investors. There are very difficult deals out there, don't get me wrong. There are very problematic bad purchases, and a bad investor will tend to buy a bad purchase. It's very, very rare that a good investor buys a bad purchase, but they do happen. Now, even the most complicated deal, even the most commercially unviable deals can be made good with the right set of circumstances. And I say the right set because it isn't one size fits all, and it isn't one contributing factor. Well, there's a deal in Norwich. It has been abandoned around for probably 5 or 6 years. A large development, riverside development, massively problematic, and all of the naive individuals who come into the property scene definitely are always looking at it. And it has sold and then fallen through, or sold and exchanged and then not completed several times. I even know of individuals who have exchanged with investors' money on this property, and then they can't get a lender to lend on it because the property deal doesn't stack up. Now, the key thing for this deal is it needs a huge amount of money pumped in the ground. So the only way you're going to be able to make it stack up is if we see a massive property price increase on where we are today, or you get it dramatically below market value. I'm talking probably a third of what it's just sold for. So a good investor, a great deal maker, will be able to turn a bad deal into a good deal by either buying it cheap enough, or understanding the sets of circumstances to find a commercially viable solution, or understands the different end markets. So instead of selling them, they keep them, they rent them, they turn them into student accommodation. And this is because I know how to sit on the edge, and it's not because I know all of the information. I've just got some financial intelligence and enough good consultants around me to understand where we can take it forward. So before we finish, I guess, how do you, as an individual, get yourself into a position where you are sitting on the edge and that you can turn any bad deal into a good deal? A deal will never go wrong under your control. Well, you've got to get financial intelligence under your belt. There is no denying it. You need to understand all of the different mortgage products, all of the different finances that you can hold of, how investments will work, how return on investments will work, how short-term, hedging, long-term, all of those things do impact the overall return on investment. And understanding what spend today will affect tomorrow and the end value and the end goal based on plan A, B, C, and D. And unfortunately, there is no easy way to get this intelligence. Lots of reading, lots of speaking to the right people, good accountants, good consultants, good financial advisors are absolutely key to all of this, wrapping it all into one overall ball of information. A good investor always makes profit from a bad deal. And even in my very worst deal, we still were able to turn a profit for the investor, and we took a small financial loss because nothing to do with the deal, so to speak. It was to do with the contractor that we had on site, and it ended up costing us a lot of money on a very, very small project, which taught me that on the very small value purchases and the very small return deals, if you have a bad trade person, they can end up costing you so much that it swallows the whole deal up. Whereas on slightly bigger deals, a bad tradesperson can be eaten up in the larger profit value. So what do you think? Do you think that there are good and bad deals and that it doesn't really matter how good of an investor you are? If it's a bad deal, it's never going to be good? Or are you with me and are you on the same page that if you are a good investor and you sit on the edge, you live your life on the edge of the coin, seeing both sides, seeing every eventuality, the good, the bad, the ugly, the profit, the loss, and the multiple markets, that you can turn any deal into a good deal? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Leave me some comments below. But look, that's it from me. Hope you found the content rich. I'll catch you all on the next video.